Hello and welcome to another space. I'm going to be just getting a few things sorted out here quickly and posting this into the telegrams, and then we're going to be getting underway in just a moment here. Let me just do this. Great. So before we get going, if you're in here right now, if you're listening, please go ahead and share this space. Go ahead and tag a friend. Do something with it. Help spread the word of TORUS and UNITY. And then shortly here, we're going to get underway once a few more people get in here. I would play a song, but apparently that doesn't work. So I'm not going to try that. Because it still makes me laugh, the fact that I had been listening to songs by myself while you guys are in silence for 3 to 5 minutes. It gets me every time I think about it. So the plan for this space is, not for me to monologue. I don't feel like I have a lot to say right now. There's a few things I want to touch on that are really important, but I also don't feel like, going off the deep end on all sorts of little mechanical details that are happening. I mean, everyone's seeing what's happening right now. All the stats are out there. It's pretty easy to see. So what I want to do is I want to invite you guys who are listening, who might show up here at some point, to come up. And I think actually, Martin, I'm pretty sure you had some questions from the chats. I think I saw some other questions coming up throughout the week. So if anyone has anything that has been coming up that hasn't been answered throughout the last week or so, because we did not do a space last week, please come on up. I'd love to answer any questions, talk through, any concerns anyone has, anything that's going on. So before we get going, though, into any sort of monologue that I'm going to try not to go really too deep into, I would like to start with, just because I see some names in here that I haven't seen before, which is fantastic. Thank you guys and gals, or whoever you are, for being here. And let's talk about TORUS and let's talk about Unity and what they are, just to start. I'm going to give a really quick spiel of what's happening here. So, we've talked in the past about different analogies of what TORUS and what Unity are. Now, they're the same systems, but they're just built on two different blockchains. So TORUS is System A, built on Ethereum, and Unity is the same system as System B, the sister protocol, built on PulseChain, which is a fork of Ethereum, if you haven't heard of that before somehow. So, we've used different analogies in the past, but I want to talk about, the importance of what these protocols are and what they're solving, the problems that they're solving, because this needs to get hit home time and time again. TORUS and Unity are, they're not trying to reinvent the wheel, so to speak. What we're talking about here is going from basically the wheel for a horse cart to, a wheel for a sports car, or even better, for a race car, something that is refined, something that, has taken what's already been done, it has already worked, but, remixing it, so to speak, in a way that, is a step towards, making a perfect version of the initial, this initial version, which is Bitcoin. If we look at what happened throughout history, we can understand very clearly what TORUS and Unity are trying to solve and why they exist. They're not trying to be some, short-term, quick gratification, pump and dump. It's a long-term protocol with similar principles to Bitcoin. It's TORUS and Unity only exist because of Bitcoin, and TORUS and Unity only exist to solve problems that stem all the way back to BTC and Bitcoin. So let's go through that. Maybe a little bit of a history lesson is in the cards today. Not a history lesson, but maybe a recap on how we got here is important to understand why TORUS and Unity exist. So with Bitcoin, holders can only hold. And who gets the majority of, the supply? Well, the people that either have huge bags, or people that chose to mine and convert their energy and hardware, or use their hardware and their energy, their work, to mine and, mine Bitcoin, right? And even today, to this day, the only people that get the benefit of actually earning the supply as it inflates and comes out is the people that mine. So if you're holding, there's no way to actually really benefit from your Bitcoin other than price appreciation. Now, if we are to look at mechanically what's happening here in terms of, when prices go up or down, what is the benefit? When the prices go down for Bitcoin, right? Just making this very general here, people can get an advantage in terms of the number of units they hold in Bitcoin, meaning just simply saying they can get more Bitcoin, right? That's the only advantage that someone who's just a holder can get, is when the price goes down, they can buy more in terms of acquiring more units, right? This is what we're looking at systemically here. But if you're a miner, you can actually get more units potentially as the price goes up, because as you are, the value of BTC is going up and you're earning BTC, you're able to sell it for more, get possibly more equipment to mine with, which would in turn possibly get you higher returns. So it's kind of an inverse correlation here, where the only advantage that holders have is when the price goes down to acquire more units. But the opposite is true for miners, where they can potentially acquire more units when the price goes up, because they can earn more, sell more for profit to get more equipment to mine more. So there's kind of a split here, a divide, and at the expense when prices go up of holders. So I see Todd has asked to come up. I am going to approve you, but we'll keep going on this until I feel like we have completed, and then I will I'll ask you to open your mic and we'll see what you got. So this is the big thing with Bitcoin. You basically have a disadvantage at high prices for holders, because the more you can't buy more at higher prices with the same dollars that you could at low prices. So this is when Hex came along. And Richard Hart invented Hex to try and bring back the power of staking to the holders, essentially, and tried to give that inflation, that supply that would come out over years and years and years to the holders. And this was, I think, a beautiful thought. I think it was very great. Now the problem began to arise, though, when we look at similar effects of when price goes up. Now, Hex has a share system, right? You want to earn the supply, you need to have shares or T shares in the system. But those T shares, right, get more expensive as the price of Hex goes up. So you can acquire more T shares at lower prices than higher prices. There's no mechanism to actually get more shares, get an advantage in the system as the prices go up, right? So it's net negative for new people trying to get in the system as prices go up, right? In terms of gaining leverage of earning within the system. So we saw BTC had this problem of holders can get an advantage when the prices go down because they can acquire more units, but the real advantage goes to the miners, who are able to essentially mine at the highest prices, get the most profit possible, and then dump on retail, right? So Hex was close. It gave the power back to the people, gave the supply back to the people. Now, the other thing I think with Hex is interesting too is the supply curve. The way supply inflates over time is different than BTC. BTC was hyperinflated initially and tapered off over time. Now, Hex is the opposite, where it basically inflates more every year. And this is a different take on it, which, the more I've thought about it, the more I can see it's potentially has a different purpose. So we'll go with that. But this is when TitanX came in my opinion, because we had BTC had its issues. Hex had the problem of no shares. You can't get an advantage in shares as prices go up. And this is when TitanX came in. And TitanX, it seems, tried to resolve this, systemic issue, but it simultaneously had its own problems that arise. Now, initially, mining was the form of supply creation, essentially. You deposit ETH into the TitanX contract. It does various things with it, and you can mine TitanX up to 280 days, similar to BTC. And instead of having equipment, you would have your ETH. Now, this was great for supply creation because the higher the prices went, the more you could actually mine. You didn't need equipment, you just needed ETH. So the higher the prices went, the more valuable your TitanX was. So the more in profit you were likely to be, which made compounding or quickly creating a high ROI situation where you could turn $1,000 into $2,000 into $4,000 was very doable, especially in the initial, let's say, 100 days or so. And So this brings us to the second half of TitanX, where there was staking as well. Now, part of the ETH that was deposited to be used for mining was also used for paying stakers, which was amazing initially because it allowed for those who, or after a period of mining, right, theoretically wise, when mining became so profitable, there was going to be sell pressure. People are going to sell the price back down. It's going to make mining not profitable again. But the theory there seemed to be that if there was a staking mechanism where there was long-term potential rewards for people staking, there's always a reason to buy up the price of TitanX, basically get cheap shares, hold the price up to a certain degree, and this will give it kind of an equilibrium over time. The problem was, though, that the staking pools were susceptible to basically being staked into by a very, very large holder, which turned out to be DragonX, and the payouts essentially died for regular holders in comparison to what they were. So now you had a system that didn't have payouts in ETH. You could only mine TitanX, and there was no real incentive anymore to buy and stake in the same way that there previously was. So the buying and holding was the only incentive for now. And this splitting of having incentive structures in the system created a myriad of problems. As we can see, TitanX has been quite low for some time, and this does not mean that it's dead. It's one of the special things about TitanX is that it was able to be built upon. You're able to build upon and leverage TitanX. We have a pretty amazing community of users and builders who the builders have built 41 protocols now. And this is one of TitanX's saving graces, is that it's got an amazing community. It's got a program that allows people to build. It's got builder incentives, the whole 9 yards. And so when we look at TitanX, we see that, okay, the mining was great, the staking was great, but the incentive reward was disconnected. You had token A you earn from mining and token B you earn from staking. There's a disconnect there, but they're completely related. So you had this fracture in the middle of TitanX in terms of, making that synergy happen, so to speak. And this is where TORUS and UNITY were born. Is born out of this series of Bitcoin, Hex, and TitanX, at least for me personally, because I created it. So again, we could throw PulseX into the mix. We throw Hedron and Icosa in there as well, without getting into them because I don't want to go too off into the weeds, but those are very critical, from my understanding as well. And this brings us all the way into TORUS and UNITY, which is what happens if you take all these individual problems with BTC and Hex and TitanX and you just try and resolve them. Well, you get a super simple system. You get an asset that gets very scarce over time, like Bitcoin, and how it goes from a lot of inflation coming out to virtually none in about 20, 30, 40, 50 years. Right? That's how your supply works, just like Bitcoin in that sense. But what if you could create a system around Bitcoin that allowed people to get an advantage for earning when prices go up and an advantage for earning the supply when prices go down, right? This is TORUS and UNITY. Effectively, it's the first token of its kind, or they're both the first tokens of their kind that allows someone to see into the future how far as far as they can, to see how difficult this asset is going to get in the future. And whether prices go up or prices go down, both sides of the market, there's an action dedicated for you to gain an advantage in shares and your ability to earn within the system. And it's so simple to use. You just go to the DApp and you look at the ROIs. One ROI is higher than the other. That typically means you're going to get more shares. And it's as simple as it is. So I know I've been talking about, what TORUS and UNITY are over the last 16 minutes, but it's important for people to fully understand that, this is all this is. It's not trying to reinvent the wheel and create something completely different. It's literally just refinement. And I think that the simplicity here of TORUS and UNITY are the most powerful. And for those who are willing to look at higher low prices as opportunity over time and how that's going to change, because like I said, right now, the amount of tokens that are available to be earned within these systems are quite high, and people are going to be in profit. Whether it is now or later, there's going to be times of high profit. And as people come and go out of this system, that in and of itself is opportunity for you and I and everyone else to get a position or grow a position or take advantage of those opportunities as people potentially leave the system as well. So that is TORUS and UNITY in a large nutshell, is solving the problems that have yet to be solved in terms of allowing users to always be able to earn and gain advantage in earning a very scarce asset that only gets more difficult to earn over time. First of its kind. So let's talk about some stats now. TORUS and UNITY have actually been crushing it. And it's funny because they've just been slowly kind of chugging their way and doing their own thing. Yet, despite that, UNITY, let's focus on UNITY right now. UNITY has burned over 2 billion, almost 2 billion PulseX to date in 93 days. And this is when there's the least eyes in this space possible going to be looking at tokens like this. Now, what you're going to see, because UNITY is so low in price, because it's about 4 cents, or around probably 3 point something. I can't see it because Dex Screener has had some issues, and now, Dex Screener is not working so well. So around 4 cents is the price of UNITY right now. And that means that every time the buy and burn is called, it's going to be burning a ton of UNITY. Right now, to burn the same amount of supply that's been burned to date, which is only $17,246 worth, it's going to take a matter of days, maybe a week or so, for this amount to actually be burned again. So get ready for UNITY to start burning like crazy. And the more UNITY is burned, the more pressure is put on the system and on the price chart for it to eventually start moving back up again. And all the while, this is eating into the end supply of 125 million tokens. And once we crack into the territory that TORUS has, which, just for the record here, TORUS has already burned 1.56 million TORUS tokens to date in only 132 days, which to me is just astronomical. So right now, the price of UNITY is, again, quite low. It's gone lower than I honestly expected it to. But different communities will treat the same system differently. Different user bases will treat the same system very differently. And so here we are. And I think this is a tremendous opportunity for the system to grab tokens and place them in liquidity and burn tokens, as well as for anyone that's interested in getting a position in this protocol and watching it unfold over months and years to come, not just days and weeks, because that's not how this protocol operates. So let's look at some more stats here. UNITY supply is now over 2.3 million. That's inflated very quickly. And if we go to the analytics dashboard here as well, we're going to see that we are in day 93. So we only have a couple days, a handful of days more of about 130,000 tokens coming out. And then effectively, we don't have any supply coming out. It's actually crazy. The more you look at this, it's like we have 1,000 tokens coming out we have 344,000 tokens coming out on day 148. We've got 133,000 on day 135, but there's virtually nothing coming out, for the most part. Day 104 has about 300,000, but there's not a lot of tokens coming out for the most part. So we're going to have 60, 70 days of virtually no supply coming out for UNITY. And that's going to be very interesting because the Fractal is a time vault that is currently holding a bunch of PLSX and PLS for UNITY specifically that is going to be deposited back into the buy and burn to be utilized just like the buy and burn has been, meaning that the balance in the buy and burn is virtually going to get doubled in less than 20 days. That's huge. So that means the daily amount of burning is going to be doubled because the minimum that the buy and burn can be set to of the contract balance to be spent per day is 1%, right? So right now we're looking at about $145,000 in the buy and burn that's being utilized, which means we're about $1,450 or $1,450 is being used per day. And that's going to double to about 3,000. And that's not including if the buy and burn is changed to increase beyond that. So again, this is all coming within the next 20 days. And then we're entering into a period of low supply coming out, higher burning, and we have also started to build a liquidity pool within UNITY as well. So the buy and build with PLS, has been turned up to 10%. That's its max. It is on its max setting. So every single day it's going to be spending 10% of its total balance And PLSX has been turned up to 5%, which is huge because this effectively means that there's going to be, well, what is that going to be? Like $4,000 or $5,000 a day being utilized just to build the liquidity pool alone. So there's some issues with Dex Screener in and of itself right now, so we can't actually look quite easily at what the LP is currently sitting at. But especially at these prices, this is huge because if we can get 100,000, 150,000 around these prices, the liquidity is going to be astronomically large as the price starts moving higher and higher and higher and higher again. This is perfect. These prices are perfect for scaling and growing liquidity at these levels. And it is a blessing, even though it's painful to see prices come this low sometimes. You have to look at the long-term outcome of what us having this opportunity is going to lead us to. And that is going to lead us to having a very, very large LP for Unity because it's gone even lower than what TORUS did in terms of its ratio to its system. It's gone so much lower, actually. It's surprised me. I will not lie. It has surprised me. So all that being said, though, Unity is now going to enter its period where people are going to start to stake, and 2 billion PLSX could turn into 3 billion PLSX very quickly, and 4 billion PLSX as well. When it comes to TORUS, we saw about 80 billion TitanX come into the system over the course of a handful of a month or so. As we went up to day 89 and beyond into day 130, we saw a ton of TitanX come in all the way till we're far over 300 billion TitanX now. And what are we at with TORUS? Speaking of that, we are sitting at 301.21. So it's been pretty wild to watch TORUS as well because TORUS has gone from a $56,000 liquidity pool, or no, about less than $50,000 at about 6.8 cents and sitting at around the 700 or about the 408,000 to 1 ratio. And now it has $200,000 and it's still sitting at 760,000 TitanX to 1. And the market cap is 561,000, which means we basically have a market cap to liquidity ratio that is extremely high for any token to have. I mean, what other tokens do you know that have $200,000 in liquidity with only $561,000 in market cap? And that's the whole point of these buy and build phases and why we have this phase one in TORUS and in Unity. It's to get these systems, get these tokens, and get the markets built so that they are very sustainable. They're very mature very quickly. And then as we get into the more bullish side of this market that is going to come, I don't know if it's going to come in 2025, but into 2026, as we start to get into more bullish times and these systems with TitanX, with PLSX, Unity, and TORUS all grow, these figures are going to be substantial and are going to give a level of maturity to something that is so new that is very, very, very rare. And even that being said too with TORUS, if you guys hadn't seen it, TORUS was ahead of many very mature tokens. I was even ahead of Hex. It's been ahead of Hex on Dex Screener on the trending numerous times, which to me is wild. But it has been in the top 30, top 25 numerous times just because of the way it's operating within its first 130 days. That's very rare, and it's not rare in the sense of like tooting our own horn, but it's just something to take note of. Like, this is how this is performing this early on. It's incredibly important. Now, if we bring this back to Unity, Unity is going to get the same treatment. Unity will have a very large liquidity pool relative to its market cap. It's going to take some time. It took TORUS, how many days was this? It took TORUS about 43 days to present, 44 days to build its liquidity to what it is now. And that being said, the buy and builds for Unity have been turned up a little higher than they were originally for TORUS. So this could be a little bit of a different situation. We could actually see Unity have a little bit of a larger LP relative to its market cap versus TORUS, which I think is fascinating as well. So I think that's all I have to talk about today on the monologue front. And I would like to invite, if anyone has anything they want to talk about, TORUS and Unity-wise, market-wise, what they see for the future, questions that you have, I know there's been some interesting questions that are coming through the chat. I don't have them handy on me. So if you guys want to come up and talk about TORUS and UNITY, I would love to speak with you about it or hear your questions and answer them. There was another one I wanted to bring up, but I think it just slipped my mind. So I'll let that come back whenever it wants to. And just as a reminder, guys, that Unity is leverage on PLSX. So even though with, the sacrifice going on for Richard Hart and prices a little bit in the gutter, this is all temporary. So remember what these tokens, or why you thought these tokens could do what they were going to do with TitanX or PLSX, and that these tokens are leveraging them. So if you think PLSX is going to do fantastic, well, then you're also going to bet on Unity as well. If you think TitanX is going to do fantastic, well, you're also technically betting on TORUS as well. And these tokens are perpetually going to be burning the supply. And as they get more powerful, they burn more. So it's very, very important to understand just how potent these systems are designed to be over time. It's not going to be an overnight success story. It never was designed to be. It's going to be a long, slow process that is designed to be easy and stress-free. So, again, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and invite you guys on up. And stop my rant. Because I do get tired of hearing myself talk, actually. Let's see. Okay, great. All right. I'm going to wait for you guys to come up. Or I guess if you want to ask a question as well, you can definitely comment on the post that I made, and I'd be more than happy to answer any questions there as well if you don't want to come up. Let's see.
Hey, Steve.
That sounds like Todd.
How did I get on speaker again? Do I keep doing that?
I invited you this time, so you might have accepted it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was trying to figure out how to mute my mic, and it was like asking me which speakers I want to use. I'm like, oh boy. So at any rate,
you never have to accept those. That's great. It's always great to have you up here, but yeah, you never have to accept those if you don't want to.
So I have a question. So I was thinking that I just did some easy math or like percentage. I was thinking Unity would bottom around 13 cents. I didn't think it would go this low. Did you say you were surprised by that as well?
Yes, I definitely was.
And it seems like there's a lot of people holding, like waiting for a little bit of liquidity to just dump it, huh? Like no,
yeah,
they're not active.
It's been very interesting to see the difference in behavior. That's for sure. Very, very interesting. So, especially, I think it was like yesterday or the day before, there's a larger holder of 70, or he had tens of thousands of Unity, and just went and dumped them.
Yeah. So it looks like he exited out of PulseChain completely because everything in his wallet is gone. So I was kind of following him. I'm like, why are people selling at this low? But it's just, it's nuts. And it seems like on Dex Screener, it's only shown that there's like 4K liquidity left. Is that true, or is it glitching?
So Dex Screener had an issue, and a lot of pools are having issues as well. So it's I don't know what it's gonna take for them to get it fixed, but they're definitely, it's not working properly.
So is there more than $4,000?
No, there's about 50 some odd $1,000 in liquidity.
Okay, because I was like, man, wow, what happened? So
yeah, no, that's I was definitely doing some digging this morning to make sure that wasn't.
Then I was looking around for you. I'm like, did Steve leave us? Where's he at? What's going on?
No, definitely not. I can't rug this thing.
No, I'm just kidding.
I literally can't.
I was just like, what the heck happened? Like I woke up and it looked like all the money was gone, and I'm in the market because it was kind of ratioed equal with TORUS. And I went a lot heavier in this one because it was easier for me because most of my stuff is on PulseChain. So, I was looking at liquidity and I'm just like, whoa, what happened? So, but I noticed like I couldn't get the data to come up and it seemed like everything was bugging. So I'm like, you learn as you're in crypto for a while when things aren't working. Like usually if you just sit and do nothing and wait 8 hours or whatever, it usually works itself out. So that's what I did. And then I was happy
Yep.
to
I
see
think,
you're having a space. So,
yeah, you made the right move. And yeah, we needed to have a space today. And I'm
and
glad because, yeah, now I can tell everyone the same thing that you're thinking is, yeah, this is just a deck screener issue. There's no issues with the smart contracts. There's no issues with anything at all other than deck screener, which is great news.
and then how come the staking, the rewards went from 2,000% down to like 200? Is that by design because everything's getting tested or what?
It is by design.
Okay.
And that design is so that way initially, people that get in can get a position. So you're going to be able to earn the most because there's the least number of people, there's the least number of possible shares that are, able to be in the system. And so as people are claiming their Unity or buying Unity on the market, they're able to stake it. And now because there are significantly more tokens than there had been, those tokens are also shares, right? So as the supply expands, what's happening is more shares can be staked into the system. So then the overall pool is more diluted, bringing down the total ROI. And this is by design. So that way, over time, it gets more and more difficult, more and more competitive, more and more stable. So you have people that aren't, able to earn 2, 3, 4, 5 times their position in 88 days and then just sell it all down. In the future, it's designed to be that people are earning maybe 6, 7, 8, 9, 10% over a course of 88 days. So that way, the volatility is much more squeezed and stable over time.
Got it. And
Yep.
as far as the what do I call it? Like the funds and the buy and burn and the fractal, is the 355, is that across all platforms? All three of those tools?
Yeah, it is. So you get the fractal, you've got about 125,000. In the buy and build, you've got another 83 or so, 82. And in the buy and burn, so the fractal and the buy and burn are connected. The buy and burn is what's usable right now. The fractal is funds for the buy and burn that are released on day 110. And there's $146,000 currently in the buy and burn, and again $125,000 in the fractal that will go to the buy and burn to be used every 10 minutes, just like the buy and burn is. But it'll be released on day 110. So $355,000 are all spread across those three contracts.
And it seems like with TORUS, it's staying pretty even keeled. Is that by design as well? Like it's not going to drain itself, kind of like Volt did, or can you explain or touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, so this system is designed so that way if you want to get into the system to earn, you must deposit, in the case of TORUS, either Ethereum or TitanX. And in the case of PulseChain, it's PLS or PLSX, meaning no one can earn an ROI in this system without depositing tokens. And in order to keep staking, you need to deposit more for the same amount of tokens every single day, just slightly more, right? 0.08%, because there's difficulty in the system. So over time, every single token is able to bring in more and more Ethereum, TitanX, Pulse or PulseX, in the future, every single day. And this allows it to be more sustained. And what you're seeing with TORUS is that mechanism from staking coming into play, which is sustaining the buy and builds and the buy and burns and, slowly building up the fractal for our day 220. But that's why it's sustainable so far with TORUS, and Unity is going to have the same effect.
Okay. All right.
It's designed the exact same way.
Thank you very much for holding the space. I'll step down and let someone else speak. Appreciate you.
My pleasure. Yeah. Same. Likewise, bro. Take it easy. Penny, what's up, man? How you doing? Seen you've been streaming a little bit lately.
Yeah. Showing my face. Showing my face.
That's awesome, man.
How you doing, man?
That's good. It's as good as anyone can be when we're still waiting after 4 years for anything to happen here in the space.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of interesting things going on. I think what we are entering into a just kind of an environment that I don't think the crypto industry has ever seen before. And I kind of have like a whole thesis on all that, but yeah, I'm excited about the space though. I am excited about Taurus. I've been tracking a lot of things that's been going on. It's created a really nice bottom. And I think that has a lot to do with what's going on with the TitanX ecosystem as well. And I think how you built the system to create the liquidity at the floor is brilliant. Because as TitanX grows, that's going to grow massively. And yeah, it's really cool, man. I'm really excited about it.
Appreciate that, man. Appreciate that. Is there, other than the floor, and is there anything else you're specifically paying attention to, or what are you watching in TORUS? Because I know you're very analytical about this, and it wouldn't shock me if you have any models or sort of math you've been looking at in the future. But do you have any sort of thing you're looking at for performance wise? What you expect for TORUS over the next up to the next fractal release? Let's say to day 220. Be curious.
It's hard to say. I think the macro still really runs projects. You know what I mean? And so it really matters on where we go within like our liquidity cycle on the macro side. But I am tracking, obviously, like there's a lot of stakers, and at some point those stakers are going to their stakes are going to be up, and so what that's obviously going to do is it's going to increase the shares in the pool of the remainder stakers, and so that might create different ROIs, so that might fluctuate a little bit, which might make it more enticing for people to continue to stake, and so that's obviously going to bring in more TitanX into the pools, because obviously you got to spend TitanX to restake, and so it's a really interesting flywheel. And obviously you don't have a lot of supply coming out for the next I don't know what it is. I mean, you probably know more than I do, but not a lot of supply at all coming out for like the next 90 to 100 days, and so if we do get an influx of liquidity coming into the altcoin sector, TitanX is obviously very uh, delicate to that. And we've seen how quick it can move, which obviously seeing how quick the Taurus price can move with that is going to be very interesting. So, um, one thing I wanted to ask too on the portfolio, is there any way that you can add like what someone is holding liquid in their wallets as well?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I can definitely do that. Let's see. Does it not have? It definitely doesn't, does it? Damn. All right. Yeah, I'll see what I can do. It's great. It's a great suggestion. Thank you.
Yeah, of course, yeah, because I got stakes, but I also have liquid, so I'd like to be able to see that in like a total Taurus portfolio.
I mean, that kind of makes perfect sense. Yeah, I don't see why that shouldn't be there at all. That's great.
Right.
Well, I'm curious to hear too on, and thanks for sharing that. What's your take on what are you seeing in the markets, the macro markets now as well?
I think, I mean, look, like this is my whole thesis, and this might rub people the wrong way that are like a traditional 4-year cyclist. I don't believe that there is a 4-year cycle in cryptocurrency. I believe cryptocurrency it follows the liquidity cycles, and which is the business cycle essentially. So, it just so happens that, since 2000, 13 to 17 to 21, those business slash liquidity cycles have been in 4-year cycles. And so that has changed a lot, especially in 2022, when the Fed hiked rates super, super, super high and started aggressive quantitative tightening. Because there was so much money that was printed in 2020 to 2021 because of the lockdowns and COVID and all that type of stuff. So in my personal opinion, it has created a different type of cycle. And the way that you can judge this is the ISM. So the ISM is how we essentially gauge the business cycle. So the ISM is essentially it's data that's collected from all the manufacturing. And so this exact chart peaked out in Q4 in 2017, and that lines up perfectly with crypto peaking out in 2017. And then it went down into a bear market after that. And then it also peaked out again in Q2 in 2021, which is why when you look at last cycle, most of the altcoins actually peaked out in Q1 and Q2. It just so happened that Bitcoin kind of made another aggressive move up around October in 2021, but none of the altcoins did. And so you could say that the business cycle actually peaked out in Q2 of 2021, which is where risk markets essentially peaked out. And then if you look at where we've been in the last 36 months, the business cycle on the ISM has actually been in a bear market. So we've literally been in a bear market for the business cycle since 2022. And so that's a direct correlation of where we see with risk markets. And obviously we know that altcoins are the highest on the risk curve when it comes to risk markets. So where I see this changing, and the reason why I think the ISM has been in a bear market since 2022, it's because of monetary policy. We've been in an aggressive quantitative tightening since then, and we're not ending that until December. And also the Fed rates have been so high that it's just completely squeezed and constricted all the liquidity out of the middle class. And so we are now officially going into an expansion period. And we've never seen a bear market in crypto when the Fed is actually going into an easing cycle. And that's exactly what we're doing. We're going into an easing cycle where they're stopping quantitative tightening as of December 1st. They're going to continue their rate cuts. And there's some FUD about that right now. Like there's obviously there's some fear that they're going to halt the rate cuts because of some stuff that Jerome Powell said, where they're not promising it. It matters on the data, of course, and the fact that the government shutdown lasted as long as it did. They're essentially not going to have data for the time that the government shut down. So there's a lot of fear in the market thinking that they're not going to cut rates because there's no data. But the Fed has a dual mandate. So their mandate is obviously inflation, but their last meeting, Jerome Powell, he essentially prioritized the job markets over inflation. And the job markets are weakening substantially. And so when you have a weakened job market, the Fed essentially is forced to continue to cut rates. Because if the job market implodes, then we go into a recession and then we're completely screwed. And they're not going to allow that to happen. And like this dip that we're on right now, in my personal opinion, I think it's a liquidity tightened dip, which is just a normal dip, And so when you refrain from this whole 4-year cycle as gospel um theology of like every 4 years we have to peak out and go into a bear market. When you remove that and you look at it from what it is, as cryptocurrency is driven by liquidity flow and liquidity cycle, then the dip that we're in right now, it's just another dip. And so that's how I look at it. And I think based on all the data and based on monetary policy and what the Fed is having to do, I think that we're going into an expansion period into 2026. Now, how long that lasts, I have no idea. When it peaks, I have no idea. But I don't think that this is us going into a bear market personally. So that's my thesis.
Well, I mean, it's a pretty thorough thesis, dude. I mean, it's pretty damn logical. It makes more sense than just 4-year cycle and then it ends there. So I got to give you credit for how much research you've done. I'm not nearly as well versed as you are. But from what I've seen, I would tend to agree with, and for different reasons, just because I haven't studied the business cycle quite as much. I'm not as up to date on all that, but it just seems that way, just feels that way. And so, to relate this back to TORUS and UNITY for everyone, it's like, let things play out right now. The way they're going, things are just going to build. People get their positions. People come in. People are going to come and go. But if you don't lose sight and you see what, Penny just talked about, and if you are thinking that 2026 could be the start of some big stuff for us here in the alt space, that these might be protocols you want to be paying attention to, big time. So, I mean, it makes me excited, really, because honestly, at this point, it's been like 3 or 4 years. I can hold out for another handful of months to get to 2026. at this point, it's par for the course. So, I mean, I'm hoping it's early, but you probably know better than I do that who knows when this thing's actually going to start to cook.
I think this is a perfect environment to participate in a protocol like TORUS, because all you have is time. There's nothing that anybody can do. And so if you're here right now and you're involved in this protocol, dude, just participate and accumulate. And from what I've seen, from all the dApps that have been created in TitanX and DeFi, like, TORUS is probably one of the only ones that I've seen that you can accumulate on the highs and you can accumulate on the lows. It's beautifully manufactured and I love it.
Appreciate that, man. That's the goal, is so that way you know no matter what the prices are doing, even if you're deep in the bull market or deep in the bear market, you have an advantage that you can utilize. So yeah, beautifully said. Thank you for that. I really want people to hit home for, I see a few new users in here, which is awesome to see. But that's the whole point, is that, while we're waiting, you can accumulate. And then when you're no longer waiting and you're partying because, oh my God, we're in the bull, you can still accumulate, it's it's designed to be the simplest possible, while being the most effective system for users to accumulate a very difficult asset to get over time. So Penny, dude, thank you for your analysis as always. Very, very, very thorough. And I appreciate you sharing your thoughts in TORUS. Come on, chat. I'm going to check in with Justin here because I haven't heard from Mr. Justin French in a while. What's up, my man? How you doing?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Doing great. Just chilling and happy to be hanging out with all of you. What's up?
Right?
What are you thinking?
I'm glad you held the space today. I think it's perfect time to hold the space. And I've liked the Unity so far, as I've said before. And it's been pretty predictable for me. But the price did go a little lower than expected originally. But there's plenty of reasons for that I think with the Richard stuff and people kind of wanting out is probably why. Somebody also talked about they saw a lot of liquid there. And I think the main reason for that is because two reasons. I think the price is probably going to go up there's some pressure there with buy and burns and stuff. And also there's a lot of fear in the market. And the other reason is that it costs to stake. So I think just because you're seeing a lot of those liquid tokens doesn't mean that they're going to dump necessarily. And if they do, it's not necessarily a bad thing either. Somebody brought that up. I just wanted to give my opinion on that. But you also mentioned new users or new money. I know I'm going to bring in a little bit because I do believe that this is a good opportunity, that it's kind of a little oversold. The system is well designed, in my opinion, because for every reaction, I guess, the market has, the system has an action to kind of counteract it. And so in my opinion, we're a little oversold. So the system in place has, things to correct that. So I don't know if there is any new people in here, you should definitely come up and ask questions, because I think right now is the best time to add more in. And the easiest way to tell that is people are underwater on an 88-day creation, which means that you could come in and be at a better place than some of those guys, and they just drop their bag because they can't stand to wait, So I don't know if there is anybody new that is interested. I would tell them to test the waters a little bit, not financial advice, but I like the system a lot, and it's been pretty predictable. And in my prediction, it's the next little cycle here is going to be the best. It's going to be a lot better. I don't think it's going to be the best. I still think fourth is going to be the best, but I definitely think this next one is going to be good for all the users who stick around. So that's just my opinion.
Well, I think there's a lot of backing that we have to that. I mean, TORUS is shown what this system can do in many fronts. And they're both different systems, or different communities. They're going to operate different, but going into the second cycle of TORUS has been a completely different animal than the first. First was just, tokens coming out, people taking profit. Second cycle was liquidity building, price going up, price going from 6 cents or below. Was it below 6 cents? I think it was. Let me just double check here.
On TORUS, yeah, I think TORUS, that was like the very bottom. Was somewhere around in there.
Yeah, I think 6.7, 6.667. I'm seeing.
I think the ratio was 5,000. No, 500, which would have been the same as us at 5,000 or something like that.
Yeah, which is why I am so surprised that Unity has gone as low as it has. This is the one unique thing about Unity is that the deposit fee is almost twice the amount that you must stake, which is really interesting. But the thing is that you're earning so much Unity in that. Like, yes, you pay $67 to stake 928 Unity or 929 Unity, worth $39. But on the backside of that, as of right now, it's estimating that you're going to earn around $284 worth. Which, even if that comes down a bit and it comes down to $250, $200, you're still getting huge ROI, and you're getting so many. If you're looking from just a token perspective, right? You're going from 928 tokens to get 6,700 tokens approximately. And even if that comes down to like 6,000 or 5,000, even 4,000, you 4x'd your stack from just essentially you'd have to spend, 4 or 5 times the money to get that amount of tokens on the market that you could acquire just by being in the system. So even though the staking fees are high right now, this is designed this way. So that way the system can counteract the value that is coming out of the system, right? So if you are putting in $1 into the system and the dollar's real, and the system's only giving you $1.30 or maybe $2 out, that's much easier to manage than, let's say, you put in $1 and you get out 10. Right now it's like guaranteed that the system's going to struggle a little bit to float itself on its own without any support from the market. So this is a really big thing. I want new users and again people that have been here for a while to understand. Thank you for bringing this up, Justin. Is that this is a time to acquire a position, and there's funds in the system that are dedicated to supporting the system. And so while you wait for the system to do its thing, you have opportunities to acquire and get a position in something that you might not be able to get a position in the same way that you can via the market or actually staking, in even 6 months. Every 90 days, the supply is going to grow pretty dramatically. And every time the supply grows, the potential dilution of the pool, and maybe a different way to say that is the difficulty of acquiring tokens via staking or creating goes up tremendously. Meaning that if you are here now and you're curious, now is a great time to get a position that might be very, very difficult to acquire in the same time frame that you can now. So yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up, and it's really important for people to understand that the staking fee is only the way it is because we've gone so low. But there are mechanics and there are funds in place, to be able to counteract that. And we're not even in the bull market yet. When the bull market comes, my God, you've already seen what things do when they're leveraging things that are going up. So imagine PLSX is going up. What's Unity going to do? Especially when Unity has its own buy and burn funds. Come on.
Well, and there's some interesting things at play here that are kind of matter but don't matter. So when you made your original creation, you had that, say, $1,000 of economic energy that you put into the system, and some went in to buy and burn, some went into liquidity, and some was pushed out to 110 days, right? So not all of that was going to be used on your stake. Well, now it's kind of different, and it's going to be really interesting is because, yeah, there might be less total money coming in, but a lot of people are delaying that gratification, which is part of this economic energy deal. But also, if you do a stake right now, and say you had $1,000 fee and staked the $1,000 of Unity or whatever, that is going to come out during your stake this time. And so it's going to be really interesting to see how it plays. We're seeing it a little bit on TORUS, but we've seen the price on TORUS really be steady. And I think I've said this before, but somebody brought up the fact that the ROI estimator is way lower. And it is, but when you take price, what I think the price action will be, the ROI is higher. So it depends on how you look at it, but if you can kind of try to estimate a price and put in your ROI into that, I think our returns could potentially be higher. In my opinion, I think they'll be higher because of that, the economic energy staying in this 88-day cycle, and with the high fees and everything. So I don't know. I've tried to predict so far to kind of play out when timing and stuff, and it's worked out well for me so far. So it's hard to predict the future, obviously, but it's fun to think about, and that's also the reason why I like this. Is it's a game to be played.
And I want to add to what you're saying too, because you're bang on the money with the ROI being lower than people anticipated, and one of the reasons for that too. I have a question for you as well. Is that the ROI for staking factors in the cost, right? So if you were to just look at on the Unity dApp, okay, it's going to cost me, okay, if I stake $39, I'm going to get $284 worth. I mean, that's a lot it's much higher than 200%. But because we're factoring in this $67, obviously it's going to be lower because we're going to have to compensate for the cost, and then we're earning. So what's going to happen though is as prices come up, and this is what you're pointing to, which I think is a really great reminder, is that if you think prices are going to be higher than they are now, right, this ROI is actually lower than it will be, because if the price doubles, right, the ROI for staking also will double in the future. And if you look at now, so let's say you got a 200% ROI now, all things considered, and then the price is a 2x. You've now just done a 400% ROI because the price is increasing. If the price continues to increase, I mean, this is the compounding nature of staking as well, right? So really important for people to understand that, and remember that the price is not going to go down forever, right? And as prices come back up at some point, you are compounding. You're also compounding in that same sense. That's what you're referring to, right, Justin?
For sure. It nailed it, So even if the prices stay the same, right, which I think is is bearish, because I don't think that's going to happen with the price that it is today at 4 cents or 3,000, what's the ratio, 3,000 or something like that. So yeah, but say it stayed the same and it's estimating you at 400%, that's that your ROI goes down as people come into the system, but those people come in after you mature, so it doesn't necessarily matter. But say it was half that, 200. Well, that's more than guys are getting now. And that's like worst case scenario almost. So yes, that's exactly what I'm saying, is price most likely should go up. If you look at TORUS and look at the factors at play with fees, timing, fractals, all the things, you put all those into play. In my opinion, this is its low, for this cycle anyways. So yeah, you have your ROI at 400 with price action. The ROI, in my opinion, will be higher this cycle than it was last cycle. That thing is just an estimator. It doesn't take so many things into play. Price being one, people coming in after you, all those things. So yeah, I guess it's a tool, and I use it, but you got to kind of put a simulator in on what you think those other things will be that to affect your returns.
Yeah, well said. The estimators are estimators for a reason. There's a reason they don't say guaranteed, because they're taking into things. They're only taking into consideration as much as is possible to actually calculate without knowing everything it actually needs. So it's going to be incorrect by nature, but it is going to be correct at the time. At the end of the day, or at the end of your stake, it will have been slightly incorrect. But at the time, which is the point of using the system, is to see at the time you're making decisions which is the right one. So I mean, I wish there was another way we could do it, but there isn't. There's not, as far as I can see, as far as the team can see, it's like this is really the most accurate way to depict what's happening in the system, because really all these ROIs are trying to show you is more or less which action is going to get you the most shares at any given time. That's it, right? Anything on top of that is bonus.
For sure. And some people in the comments, I haven't read them all, but some people will say, well, they came in, on they matured on day 91, so they're late. Well, I think one, obviously, if you're looking at it like that, you're looking at getting out, which, I mean, get out, sell, no big deal. But the way that the thing's been designed with the fractal and the cycles is somebody who's late is eventually early or on time, because it's kind of like a wave. You could probably describe it better, but for some people in here that they want to keep going 88 days, but right now they're maturing, even say day, 95, 100. If you go out to, what's 88 times 4 was like 100 and, I don't know what the math is, but eventually you're early, on the kind of the cycle, and not saying you should sell even then, but, that's kind of, I think you can describe why you designed it like that. Partly it's economic energy, but, like after 10 cycles is the 8th fractal or something like that. I don't know if you want to expand on that, but I think it's interesting because that's been brought up in the chat.
Yeah. So there's actually, and I think it's the first time they overlap, I believe, is actually at the 4th cycle, I think it is, or the 5th cycle, I think it should be, of TORUS, because then it goes to day 440, and then we have an overlap of the fractal, which is every 110 days, is lining up on day 440 of TORUS with the 5th cycle of, because we go, let me just double check that I'm actually saying this right here, but it was designed so that way on day 880, the fractal would release at the same time as the 10th cycle of TORUS from day 1. Now let me just double check here. So we got 88 times 5, so it sounds like a meat stick. Yeah, 440. Great. I can't actually math, believe it or not. So that means that every 440 days, the fractal is going to line up with the cycles that have been going from day 1. So if you've been in early, or, I mean, it doesn't even really matter if you've been in early or not, but you can just know that every 440 days that the fractal is going to go off at the same time as people that have been in from the beginning. And I mean, the game theory there was, it wasn't supposed to be something that was super spectacular. It was just, when you line things up in a way that is, can strike a narrative or strike people to get excited, it adds a little bit of spice, and it adds a little bit of excitement to the community and to people that are in the protocol, and something to look forward to as well. But it wasn't just necessarily designed to be this like huge thing, because it's not like the fractal is not designed to pump the price the moment it goes directly into the buy and burn, as we all know. It's just designed to help out. But, if let's say the buy and burn's low, I mean, it could be a huge day. So it could be a very important time to plan around, and knowing that day 440 is when the fractal will come out, with, people that have been cycling since day 1, could be important to plan around that. But it will also happen again around day 880, sorry. And this will continue every 440 days into the future. So I don't know if there's any other game theory I could add to that there, Justin, but was that what you were thinking? Or was there anything else you want me to talk about on the game theory side? Because there wasn't really too much, honestly. It was more of a thought of alignment and having more of a cyclical nature within TORUS.
Well, I looked at it as economic energy. So you go in your first cycle and you're leaving, what, 70% of what economic energy you started with going into that cycle, but it's delaying it, right? And the whole thing is to me, it's about pushing it off and paying people to stay, and then the people. It's hard to describe it that way, but some of it, if you delayed it to the next cycle, means you're getting some of the energy back in place and delaying it or whatever. But yeah, it's hard to describe. But yeah, basically nailed it. I think it's a very key part of the system. I know that there's a lot of things in play that counteract actions. I don't even know if you meant to put in all of them. Some of them might have been by accident, but I think it plays in really well, and I like it. And I actually think that Richard Hart is helping us, because anybody who's doesn't have the diamond hands, doesn't have the foresight to see it, I think they're getting out, And if you're down and you don't have fees, I think that's part of the reason why the price is down, and it's not a bad thing. Is that if you don't have the fees, I know some of these guys don't have the money or whatever, and they thought the plan didn't work out, so they're selling some of their Unity to pay for fees. And I can't say that that's a bad idea. Converting, even if it's at a loss, that's up to you. And cheap Unity right now helps the buy and burn, so you're not really hurting the community. If you think you sell at a loss, I think continue to stake is a good idea. So as far as game theory there, I mean, we could talk about it, but if somebody's thinking about that, I mean, it sucks, but you're not really selling at a loss if you're continuing to stake. If you're waiting for fees to go down, I don't necessarily know if that's a good idea either. I don't know if somebody's in that situation. We could talk it through without giving, advice, but I've kind of had a ladder, so I've had different things come about, but I kind of saw it coming because of TORUS, so I stopped my ladder and I kept my PLSX so I could use it for fees. So that was really cool because I was about to go all in. So I think I'm in a situation that's great for me, in my opinion, because I can keep staking, but not everybody's probably in that spot. So hard to tell somebody what to do, but it might not be the worst thing to. And if, to be honest, if it was me and I had all in Unity and a creation coming out, I would probably just convert maybe a little bit and stake it like 10% and just kind of keep pushing it out, even though you'd be selling at a loss. To be honest, that's probably what I would do. Because if you're wanting to stay liquid, you're waiting for the price to go up, which I think it will. But what are you waiting for? The price to go up so you could sell? Or are you waiting for the price to go up for your fees to go down? Because you kind of have to do some math to figure out if that's a good idea either. Yeah, I mean, nobody wants to tell somebody to sell, right? But in this system, it's not necessarily a bad thing to talk about. So I don't know if somebody's in that situation and actually wants to discuss that. But yeah, that is something I think certain people in the community are having to make that choice right now. And I know in spaces, a lot of people don't like to talk about selling, but if you're in that situation, I think it's fine to talk about it. If you want to ask Cryptographics his opinion or somebody's opinion, I'd come up and ask.
And I would encourage anyone to, have the discussion, because it's like, it's understanding what your options are is really important, I think. And I'm not going to comment on, obviously better, worse strategies. I don't feel like that's appropriate for me, given my position. But I do think understanding, like you're saying, what are my options? Well, what are the outcomes of all the decisions that I can make right now? What's the point of the system? There's this staking at these lows is effectively, in one shape or form, it's allowing yourself to DCA into a larger position. There's many angles to look at it. One is you're selling your initial position. You're selling, and some people don't like that. But yeah, I don't know, Penny or Todd or anyone else in the who's listening has any other thoughts or anything like to add or any questions about that. But I think this is a great discussion because it is important. And I guess one thing I'll add is that if we're looking in units instead of dollars, we get a better understanding of actually what's going on with the staking. In dollar terms, yes, staking is expensive right now. But in unit terms, meaning the amount of UNITY and the amount of PLSX, so the amount of UNITY that you can stake and the amount of PLSX that it costs to stake, will only go up in time. And that's designed into the mechanics of the system, and it's purposeful. So right now, if you're thinking of, well, I don't want to pay 500 million PulseX to stake nearly 1,000 UNITY, okay, that's fair. It's going to cost more in the future. The prices, the USD value might be different, but this is important to understand, is that the amount of PulseX that it's going to cost you to stake the same amount of tokens only goes up. And the USD value will only change based on the prices of PLSX and UNITY to one another, right? So the staking takes some time to fully understand, but once you wrap your head around this, you're going to spend the same amount of PLSX now. It doesn't, if UNITY was $1,000 a token, or it's where it's at right now, 4 cents a token, it's going to cost you the same amount of PulseX no matter what to stake that. It's just because it's all tied to ratios systemically within UNITY. And so if you look at it from that lens, you're going to understand that whether your 963 UNITY are worth $1 million or $1,000, it's going to cost you the same amount of PulseX, right? At the end of the day. So knowing that can really help you understand, okay, well, what is actually my best decision right now? And I feel like that's a very pivotal thing to learn. And it is one of the more complex things to understand about the system. But once you get it, you're going to see, and it'll open up your eyes to really what's going on here and how you can take advantage of the system itself. So I don't know if anyone wants to add anything to that, or anyone has any questions about the staking side of things or strategy around that. And if Penny or Todd or Justin, you guys have anything else, but I'll leave that side of the conversation up to you guys. And I see a few names in here that I haven't seen before, which is great. So I'm going to go ahead and invite you guys up. Let me see here. And one more. Let's see. A couple more. Sweet. We got Martin coming up. Right on. Just give it a sec while he comes up here. What's up, Martin?
Hi guys, can you hear me?
Loud and clear, man. Good to have you. How you doing?
Yeah, fine, thanks. So yeah, we have some Cloudflare issues, and for entire day, and a lot of websites didn't work. So I guess that's why DEX is showing nothing right now. Actually, I can see this buy and burn, and it's very important because I'm trying to set up some liquidity pools. So what's your opinion about liquidity pools? Because this is the topic that we chat a lot amongst users of TORUS and UNITY now.
Sorry, I just realized I was muted. Can I elaborate on liquidity pools in what way? I know obviously the context is about UNITY, but can you elaborate on that a little more so I know exactly what you want me to talk about?
Basically, people trying to get PulseX to stake. So some of them, they just want to sell the Unity for staking. I know that liquidity pools are very complicated and big topic. We could spend another few hours talking about them. But people are wondering, would be better to sell some of their Unity on the market, use liquidity pools to sell, or just put their Unity into the liquidity pool and forget about staking, like what would be the best outcome. I know it's talking about different strategies and you can't say which one is great, but maybe you can elaborate so people know what to do, because from my chats with other people, it's like people are lost. Yeah, so everybody wondering what to do, how to do it, and they are actually afraid to ask on chat questions because, some overly bullish people will shout them out. So, like, can we address this?
Yeah, so if I'm understanding you correctly, is just people are deliberating on what strategy, given where we are in Unity right now with price-wise, utilizing liquidity pools and actually earning passive income through them via providing liquidity versus staking, and, which is the better option.
Yes, exactly.
So I can't speak to which is the better option. They're both different. They both have their use cases. And to be honest, different market conditions warrant, possibly different decisions. When there's like liquidity providing it's best for someone who's providing liquidity when the price is essentially going sideways and you have the most volume, right? Because then what you can do with version 3 liquidity is you can have a smaller range, tighter range that, will allow you to have a more concentrated effect and earn more fees over that range. But when the price goes out of your range, then you run into what's called impermanent loss. So liquidity providing is an art. You have to know what you're doing. So if you're new to liquidity providing, it's going to be a little bit of a challenge to just start right away and, be competing with something potentially like staking. If you do know what you're doing though, there's going to be lots of opportunities. I mean, given right now that Unity is likely to operate within a range with PLSX for quite a while, typically that's pretty ideal for liquidity providing. So if you wanted to make some fees and, staking didn't seem like the way to go, you've got PLSX. You don't want to give PLSX up to the system. You want to just utilize it to provide liquidity. I mean, potentially now could be a very good time for the next while. I mean, if you look at TORUS as an example, TORUS has stayed within a range and let's go to the ratio, not the price. It stayed within a range of, let's say, 450,000 to 1, actually mostly 555, which is an interesting number, all the way up to 1 million to 1. It stayed in that range for the last, basically, since September 25th. So that would be a prime time. If people are providing liquidity within that range over that time, that's a lot of fees, given the buy and burn and the buy and build are constantly going to be routing, through the pools. It's great. Now, the thing is, though, is you probably want to start a 1% or a 0.1% pool because 0.01% is not a lot of fees. It doesn't generate a lot. So if you're going to provide liquidity in the 0.01% pool that the system has, you're not going to earn basically anything. It's very, very, very low fees. So you'd want to start a 1% pool or a 0.1% pool, depending on what you are comfortable with. But it's going to depend on how congested the system is, what the price does. Liquidity is a hard thing to talk about, as you already implied. And I don't want to suggest that anyone should or shouldn't do it, but it's a different art. The one nice thing about Unity is that people can just show up with PulseX, show up with their Unity, stake it, forget about it. There's no impermanent loss. It's like, you don't have to worry about being in the market in a certain range. It's easy, right? It's designed to be that way, versus liquidity providing is much more hands-on. It takes much more time, takes much more management, and foresight. That's the thing. You have to actually be looking a little bit ahead, be like, okay, where are we now? Where do I think we can go? And what are the factors that could change that to make my position have some sort of impermanent loss or go out of range, right? Or if it goes out of range, will it come back into, like, there's just so many questions that you have to ask to really be good at liquidity providing. So I said it isn't art. So I don't know if that actually answers your question. Might raise more questions, but it's really, I think, the most appropriate answer I can give because I don't want to direct in either direction. I think it's more important to just give general knowledge on that front.
Yes, I understand that you can say which strategy is better. So yeah, I think this should be good for starting conversations in the Telegram chat. So if someone has more questions about liquidity, we can talk as users there. Okay, but when we are talking about staking fees, a lot of people want to know when staking fees for Torus and Unity will be cheaper in USD terms. It's something that we talk a lot. They send messages. We chat a lot, not only on Telegram channel, but also in direct messages, and people want to know. So if you could explain them when in USD terms, like we know that in PulseX and TitanX it will keep going up, but in USD terms, when staking fees will be cheaper, what conditions would have to be for staking fees to be cheaper, so they know what to do?
Yep, it's a great question. As the price of Unity goes lower against PulseX, the staking fees are going to go up. But as the price of Unity goes higher in ratio against PulseX, so Unity increases in value against PulseX, then the staking fees will go down seemingly in USD terms per Unity. And that's really as simple as it is. Right now, we're way lower than I expected us to be. I think a lot of us kind of in a similar boat there. But because we're so low, the staking fees in unit numbers, meaning, like I said before, it's going to cost the same number of PulseX to stake 1,000 Unity, whether Unity is a penny or $1,000. It's going to cost the same amount in PulseX terms, right? But what changes is if Unity is higher in price relative to where it is now against PLSX, then the USD value of the PLSX at cost to stake is going to be much cheaper. It's as simple as it is. I don't think there's any other way I can answer that. It's really just that simple. Unity just needs to go up in value against PulseX, and then the staking fees will seemingly come down.
Yeah, okay, that answers it. And again, if you guys have more questions, feel free to ask on chat. Okay, I added to suggestion live list that I created the site for. I send you DM. I don't know if you've seen it, but I keep this suggestions live list for Torus and Unity, and Scott has access to it. If you want access to it, so you can edit it, modify whatever. You can send me whatever Gmail address, and I will add you too. So I don't know if you've seen this list, but I added all the suggestions that we have from users on the Telegram channel, and even from spaces. When I see something, I just keep adding them. So the list goes. Yeah, it's already a pretty long list and will be longer with more suggestions. And on that note, when we go to Unity and staking right now, we can see that if we want to stake this 1,000 Unity, the ROI is 200%. But I think there's better metric to show, because ROI is taking into consideration USD. And of course, ROI, like return on investment, so it should take a USD into consideration. But there is another metric that when I stake 1,000 Unity, I will estimate it and like 7,000 Unity. So the 7,000 Unity is 700% more. So maybe we could add this. We had this discussion on channels on Torus and Unity, like people wanted to see how much they tokens will increase. So maybe next to the estimation at Unity, we can add in the like plus 700% increase of your Unity tokens, of course, estimated. But this value is like better than taking USD, because USD keeps changing, and it's the number of tokens actually showing you how much more tokens you will get. So I think this is better metric than ROI. So this is some like suggestion.
That's great. I've thought about this as well, and I appreciate you bringing it up. It's tough because the ROI when Unity is at a little bit more of a reasonable ratio to PulseX, is intended to be less impacted by, the USD price. But because we've just gone so deep, it's showing just how extreme things are, and therefore it's, what is giving you 700% tokens is showing 200% because of the USD value. So, let me think about how we can maybe incorporate something. It's also trying to simplify it too, because it's a hard balance of not ignoring what's something like the cost, as you guys all know. So it's just a balancing act. And I appreciate bringing this up. I'm going to think about this today and maybe talk to Scott and the team about what we can do there and see what we can do. Because it would be nice to be able to showcase what people are going to earn in tokens. It's just hard because I feel as though it would be wrong to only focus on that without incorporating what people are totally putting in as well. So it's a balancing act, but we'll figure it out. But thank you for bringing this up. I don't know if you have any more suggestions or anything commentary on that. But.
One last question, because people keep asking me about it because I'm admin in all three groups. Easy mode for TORUS UNITY, yes or no?
At this point, no, because that is not something I think is appropriate. I don't think there, especially in the future, you can do so many decisions, and having an easy mode can actually cause damage when we get into different price territory relative to the base token like TitanX or PLSX. And TORUS isn't designed to tell you what to do. It's not designed because when we get into territory where staking and creating are both potential options, easy mode it does not actually potentially give you the best options if you're already in the system. It's simple, it's easy, and it kind of goes against what I believe how TORUS should be used, personally.
Okay, thank you. Others want to ask questions, so that's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Appreciate you as always, man. Penny, what's up? Actually, yeah, I can't remember who had their hand up first. I think Cash had it, but go for it, Penny. I think you were up first, man.
Yeah, just kind of like to piggyback up off of that with things being really expensive right now at these lows in the state. Would you say that you created the system, obviously with how the liquidity works out, for this to actually work itself out with how TORUS and Unity will obviously outperform PulseX and TitanX as prices increase, which will make the cost of staking cheaper as time goes on and price starts to evolve?
Yeah, actually. So this whole system is designed to basically have, one mechanic that pulls the price down as we cross the median point of the system. So 100,000 to 1, a little bit more now because the difficulty's gone up in Unity. But there are 3 different mechanics when the prices go low to help amplify the system and to cause it to eventually go back up. So right now there's a lot of tension. When we're down here, supply is burned at such a rate that it will place a lot of pressure eventually on supply simultaneously while the buy and burn is doing its thing and the market is all fighting for shares. So you've got 3 different pieces or different directions that is trying to resolve the price being low when the price is low. So the longer we stay down here, the more tension goes on the price, and it is designed in the way that it is so that it can self-resolve at some point. Now, when TitanX or PulseX start doing their thing, whenever we get to the fun part of the market, then we're going to really see things happen a lot quicker because we all know how, liquidity bonding can be so powerful when, you're leveraging something going up and you're also having added buy pressure into the thing that is also on top of that. I mean, things happen so quickly. And all of that is like a tension release, so to speak, of all these different mechanics and all these different things that have been kind of happening under the surface and bubbling and pushing in a direction. But then finally, once it gets that momentum, it's going to happen really quickly. It has time and time again. I mean, you mentioned it earlier, Penny, is anytime TitanX started to do anything, we saw TORUS moving quicker, much quicker. And you're going to see the same thing with Unity as well. And it's just going to be different because PLSX and TitanX are two different tokens or two different ecosystems, and they're going to perform, just differently at different times. So, but to come back to the core of the question is like, yes, I thought very, very, very long and hard about how we get as much tension and as many mechanics possible that will allow the system to come back up and for staking fees to become cheaper again, that we possibly could. That's it. And maybe there's things we could build in the future that also aid that as well. And that's a constant thought process that's in my mind of, okay, what is out there? What can we build? What else could we do to really build this thing into something special beyond what it already is? How far can we take this to really make a self-sustaining ecosystem here? And I have ideas and I also have questions, and it'll take time to figure out what those are. But I think eventually some really cool things are going to come. I don't know if you have anything else you wanted to add to that or any final commentary, but if not, I can go over to Kesh there, Penny.
Yeah, no, you can move on.
Sweet. Yeah, thank you for the question as well. Kesh, what's up, man?
Hey, good evening. I'm happy I made it this time. I'll make it short. I want to, if my bullishness maybe suppresses someone, I'm sorry. I will type less. I'm just really bullish. Okay, I just wanted to share my view on the LP strategy. I like looking on the first cycle and second cycle. So on first cycle, we made like a lot of tokens. Maybe it's a 20x in tokens terms. So you created 1,000 TORUS or UNITY. You got out like from 100 tokens, you get like 2,000. Anyway, you made it 20x. So maybe then you make second cycle and you make another 3x. So in sum, it's 60x. So long story short, you make a lot of tokens. So my strategy is to make an LP. Sorry, that's my dogs. To make an LP when I have a lot of tokens after second cycle. And right now, I'm learning to LP. I'm new in crypto, kind of. So it's time to make mistakes and learn, because a lot of people want a video how to make an LP. So guys, maybe try out and educate yourselves. And you kind of have to foresee the market, but I don't expect crazy price movements right now in crypto in general. Yeah, that's my point on LP strategy.
Yeah, thanks for that. I want to echo what you're saying too, is like, even if a video is made, at the end of the day, in order for you to actually do anything or to learn, you have to actually start. You can't actually liquidity provide from just watching a YouTube video. At the end of the day, you watch a video, you learn something, you get a little bit more familiar, and then you actually have to go do it. So, until a video is made, until someone makes a video, especially if you're on PulseChain, it's like cents to do anything, right? Like a penny or two, most. So if you are on PulseChain, you want to practice providing liquidity, you could literally use $5, use $10, use $20, whatever you want to use, just to get familiar with how these things work. And that way, if you make a mistake, because they're going to happen, right? When you're learning, we've all made mistakes in this space. Some, unfortunately, more costly than others, but in this case, it doesn't need to be costly, right? You can play with $5, $10, $20, $50, whatever you're comfortable with losing, just to learn how things go, and then place a position, watch it work, see what happens, make adjustments, see what happens there. And ultimately, that is one of the most potent ways to learn versus just watching a YouTube video, because YouTube video makes you feel like you know something until you get into it. Then you realize, oh God, I have a lot to learn here. But that's the process, just getting in and getting your hands dirty. So yeah, Kesh, go ahead, man.
Yeah, just one last thing on that. So in like maybe when you have, you made a lot of tokens, you can't afford to stake everything. And there's also like no need to stake everything. You have a lot of tokens already. and then at that point it makes actually more sense to make an LP, and at that point it would be good that you are experienced and you know what you do already if you make an LP with a lot of tokens. So I don't expect myself to be able to stake everything after second cycle. So I kind of have to learn now to make less mistakes later.
That's the way, man.
LPing is a really good thing to learn, and I would really suggest people learn the trade. And there is lots of videos out there on Uniswap from Ethereum and the 9mm DEX that Unity is on is just a fork. So you could take all the videos that are out there on Uniswap and learn. And a lot of times people get the ratio wrong because of the charts. Say like Unity is in 3,500. They have it ends up showing that your ratio is reversed. Is like the number one probably why people don't understand it. But if you go on there and just click around, and one of the first things I would suggest, not actually like placing but clicking around and doing single-sided, because then you learn which side that you're on. So say you went on there and toggle around until you're placing single-side liquidity, and that would be selling your Unity as the price goes up. And I'm not saying do it, learn the trade, but if it's easy to see when you're on the single-sided to visualize which side you're on. So yeah, hard to explain, but go on YouTube and lots of videos on Uniswap. And what we're using is just a fork. So it's all the same things. And because it's Uniswap, even if you're in a different language, there'll be videos on whatever language you prefer to listen to. Because yeah, if we did one, or Cryptographics did one on just Unity and PulseX, it's kind of it's all the same. So I don't necessarily think he needs to do it. He can if he wants, but lots of videos out there. And a question I had on liquidity is the system, I believe, is meant to use whatever the best route is. And I know that it's has some PLS or PLS that it's converting to Unity for like the buy and burn and the buy and build. It gets swapped. So is it just using whatever is the best opportunity, or is it designed to transfer its PLS to PLSX and then swap through the DEX? Because if not, there might be opportunity for somebody to place small amounts of liquidity with Unity and PLS, because then the system might use it, because there is some PLS in the system that needs to be converted, was the question I had.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the way it operates with the buy-in process is it goes directly through. It's programmed to take the contract for the main pair and then run through that, unfortunately. But the market will be a different story, though. You know, whatever the market's doing, if, let's say, people decide to go to a 1% pool or do a pulse and, I mean, that one's still going to be going through its route. It's programmed to be a certain way. To go through the PulseX V2. That's obviously in PulseX V2. But in the future, you know, for the market, for Unity, I mean, people decide to make a huge Unity pool of Unity and PulseX. That can see a lot of volume depending on the routing. And I mean, that could be fantastic for liquidity providers as well.
But one thing you got to know is, say you put it in right now, you would be DCAing technically out at these prices. Yeah, you would get volatility and earn fees. I think I lost connection.
Oh, you're good. I can still hear you.
Oh, my phone said. That's just the simple thing, that definitely a reason why you shouldn't do a bunch of money if you don't understand it. But technically, we all think that the price is going to go up from here. Um, so if you put in your range on providing LP right now, technically it would be DCing dollar cost averaging out. You'd be selling at these lows. That would be the only thing I would, you should definitely know. But yeah, do some homework on liquidity providing. It's a good trait to know.
Yeah, at least to just understand it. It's going to give you a better idea of what's happening with the markets, like how price moves, all that good stuff. I think it's one of the most important bits or aspects of understanding this space, and even macro markets too. Understanding liquidity is just like liquidity is such a powerful piece of knowledge that learning it in this space is just as important as learning it in the traditional finance world. So yeah, I think it's a great piece of advice from both you guys for people to really learn liquidity. I see Firestarter has come up here, so I want to welcome him up. And what do you have for us?
Hey, hello. Good afternoon, evening, everybody. I think it's amazing. We passed, the 88 and 89 days. I've been delving a bit more into the staking aspect, and I'm really looking at the PulseX ratio. And if possible, if somebody could give me his opinion, if you now start staking, right, you need to put a big amount of PulseX in there. And then you can technically 4 or 5x your bag accurately at this share rate, it says. So would it make sense for the ratio around day 160 to 170, or even, actually, no, I'm going to be wrong. 160 to 170 for the ratio on PulseX to be around 1,500? Has anybody ever looked at that to see that the ratio might drop to PulseX? Or am I wrong in that?
Well, walk me through your logic on that, just so I can
Okay.
understand
Yeah.
why.
So I made a calculation, right? And this was basically done 3 days ago on, let's say you have, for ease of conversation, 100,000 Unity and you stake it. That means you have to put in around 530 million PulseX. So what I did there, I calculated the market price of 100,000 Unity, which is like 330,000 PulseX, plus the cost to stake it. So I came out at around 850,000 PulseX would be your cost for staking 100,000 Unity for 88 days. You get back, according to the estimate, around 1,350,000 Unity. So that 1,350,000 Unity actually only cost you 850 million PulseX. So at my calculation, the ratio would be the cost, right? Between 800 and 1,600 PLSX per Unity. I don't know if I'm wrong, but this is how I was looking at it.
We got to remember that cost basis and future price are two different things, right? That's your cost basis at that point.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
So that doesn't necessarily mean the price is going to go there because there's so much going on in the system. There are every token is shares. There's a lot going on here. So for us to, assume that in the future that this is the cost basis, therefore we're at least going to go there, I think is, I don't think that's a necessary
good way to approach it.
Yeah. Because there's so much happening, as we all know that.
No, sorry, and I agree with you completely, right? But I was just looking at, okay, let's somebody wants to cash out, just as we saw the last few days, it broke around 2,500. I think people were selling at a loss even, because I don't think that was a ratio that you would have gotten if you staked for 88 or created for 88 days. So all I'm saying is, like, in the past, I was thinking that the PulseX ratio would go back to the creation price of 100,000. But I'm just curious about, so anybody else did this calculation and looked at what the potential cost might be around 160 to 170 in days?
That's just because that's your cost. But if you look at the mechanics behind what the ratios will be, that means going forward, that might be your cost. But going forward, it would cost 4 or 5 times the PulseX to stake your Unity. And that would be the counter action that would come with that ratio that you're implying, just because that's your cost. So there's a lot that would counteract that.
Okay. Maybe I don't understand that mechanism fully yet. So am I correct to assume that the longer I wait, hypothetically, to stake, right? Let's say I stake 10 days from now, the cost will be more for the PulseX involved?
That's correct.
Thank you. Okay. Well, I just did this. That was all I wanted to say. I was just curious if anybody did this. Thank you for letting me speak.
Yeah, of course. There's no questions that are too hard, especially when I can tell, like, if someone comes up, I guess this is just for the record too, for people that are listening, that if you have a hard question or, a tricky, I don't care. I'm happy to answer. I think all questions should be able to be answered truthfully and as totally as we can. The only problem I'll ever have with a question or someone coming up to speak is, if I can sense there's like an anger or a malintent, or they're just looking to start something, then it's like, okay, I'm not going to humor that. But yeah, there's no questions that I want to avoid with this. Maybe some questions I can't answer just because someone's like, when are you going to turn on the buy and burn? It's like, yeah, that's, you can't answer that question, dude. Sorry. That would give away the game, so.
And something else, because I wrote it down on day 88, the staking cost, and now as well. So the staking cost increased indeed with 3 million PulseX for 100K Unity. But what you're getting back is 50% less of what it said 2 days ago. So 2 days ago, you received 1.35 million Unity, and now only 665. Okay. So yeah, that's actually very interesting to see.
Yeah. So do you understand why that happened?
I think because more people are staking, therefore the shares get diluted. So maybe if you stake first, right? Well, am I correct on that line of thinking?
Yeah, you're pretty much there. I mean, without going into all the nuanced stuff, it's basically dilution.
Yeah.
Right in front of our eyes. Tokens coming out, tokens equal shares. Every token's always worth 7,744 shares. And as more tokens come out, more multiples of those shares can be staked for a given 5 to 88 days.
So let's say 2 days ago I would have staked. It showed like 1,350,000, but technically I'll probably receive a 2x maybe out of it now, looking at how it's probably gonna continue.
In USD value, remember, because if you look at the tokens you're getting, right?
Yeah, I'd never look at USD value. I just don't do this on chain. So I'm looking at units, or see, that's maybe my mistake as well, because I always look at PulseX ratios.
Right. Right. And the way we're calculating the ROI right now is including the USD value, which we're actually talking about how we could possibly just kind of get rid of the USD side to just show what the token percent you're going to earn is estimated.
Yeah.
So this is actually a good conversation. It's very relevant. But yeah, right now you are going to earn, what is it, like 6.7 times the amount?
Yeah, 6.6 times. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Exactly. So, and that will continue to go down because there is liquid. Let's go to the liquid. We have 3 million tokens, and probably another 500,000 or so are going to come out over the next like 10, 15 days, I would expect. If those start getting staked, there's going to be potential for a lot more, or a lot lower of an ROI, happening for staking. But this also can change a little because the price is just so depressed right now in Unity that the USD is really hammering on the ROI, making it look a lot lower than it is in token numbers. So if the price starts to recover, even while dilution is going to happen, you could still see very high ROIs. For example, if we go over to TORUS, the Ethereum version, there are a lot more shares in the system. A lot more tokens have been staked. So, for example, there's 2.89 million TORUS that have been staked to date, and the price is still only about 8.5, kind of closer to 9 cents. But if we look at the ROI for staking, it's still 194.6%, and the price is still relatively low. So, there's a few factors that are all going to be kind of amalgamating and creating what can seem like a low ROI, even though in reality, like in TORUS, you're still putting in 900 tokens and getting out 3.7 thousand. And same with Unity, you put in 960 tokens or whatever, you're going to get almost, 6x, 7x your, the tokens, even though the ROI shows so low. So yeah, there's a lot of factors that really contribute to the end, visual of what you are estimated to get, which is why you're seeing these huge fluctuations.
Yeah. No, and again, my cost basis calculation was purely to kind of predict what would happen in the next end of the cycle, because then you have a combination of staking results and of new creations, maybe even. But that cost basis calculation is now completely wrong. So that's actually positive in my opinion. So
it's how it goes with these games, man. It's just the good thing is you just try out numbers and models and eventually get the right answers. So, I mean, kudos to you for trying to figure it out.
appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. My pleasure.
You actually seem like you think a lot like I do on this deal. And one thing that we haven't talked about, because there's even a lot more to this thing, is that this kind of price floor, that's the wrong way to say it, price floor, because it could obviously go lower, but it's created by this ratio with PLSX and these fees that come with that. So you talk about this 5 times hypothetical. Well, the ratio changes over time, and it's directly correlated to, it's the same as the rate of inflation, the 0.08. Cryptographics can expand on it, but the ratio is actually going up. So right now, the fees to Unity staking is like, what is that, 5,000 that they're equal, but that is going to go up at 0.08 per day. So after however many days, I haven't posted that graph in a while, but that ratio changes. So that floor in the PLSX ratio, we appreciate on PLSX gradually over time via this ratio and the payout percentages. And because it seems like you think a little bit like I do, going long term, that's going to be an important metric.
100%. I think it's one of the only metrics, to be very honest, that you should look at unless you came in with really new capital. But if you use Pulse or PulseX, I think you only should look at the ratios because you're going to get lost. You might either think that something is performing very well while it's not, or the opposite way. And to be honest, how I looked at the floor price of Unity, in this case, a PulseX ratio, I looked at a stake that I had for 80 days and I calculated my complete cost in PulseX ratios. And I think that was around 3,600 PulseX. So I'm assuming people that did a 80-day creation, their cost probably was around 3,000. So I think everything under 3,000 PulseX is an extreme good buy. But again, this is just me doing some calculations.
I'm going to see if I can find that chart that I made a while back. I'll put it in the nest to see if it's what you're thinking about.
Yeah, that'd be great to have that chart again. That was really good. I think you made a couple or a few of them, didn't you, Justin?
Yeah. Well, there was one based upon the payout, which is a chart that is a descending chart. And the one that I'm referring to is the ratio to PLSX and the floor that I was kind of obsessed about for a little while. And that is one I just found, and I'll working on putting it up.
Yeah, thank you. Those are great charts. Firestarter, you'll really like this one. I think having a visual on it's very powerful.
Perfect, thank you. And will it be shared, in the Telegram chat, or where will that be shared?
Justin, what do you think? Justin, up to you, but could be good to have both again. X and TG, if you can, even under this space.
Yeah, I actually found it via the Telegram, so it's already in the Telegram, and I'm putting it in the nest right now.
Sweet, that's great. Well, on that note, I think this is a perfect place to wrap up today. We've been going for almost 2 hours now, which has been awesome. I appreciate all you guys coming up, hanging out, asking great questions. And I think this time next week, we will be hanging out yet again. So thank you to everyone being here. If you enjoyed the space, please share it. It is recorded. So for others who want to check it out afterwards, they can come in, listen to this awesome conversation that we had and all your guys' fantastic thoughts, questions, and points. And let's share the age of Unity and TORUS with as many people as we can. And thanks everyone for being here.
Thank you guys. Have a good day.
It's up in the nest real quick. It says, like, for example, on day you could associate this with fees. So right now at 5,000 PLSX to Unity ratio, our fees are even roughly. So on day like 800, it'll be half that. So then what would that be? It would have to be, I don't know, I have to explain on it, but maybe for the next space, I'll think on it. We'll talk about it.
Thank you,
Yeah, that'd be
Justin.
great.
Guys, a reminder, we have also community spaces every Thursday.
Yes.
There's only me and Cash talking, and we would like, you see, there's many off topics between users, so feel free to join us. They are around the same time as those spaces on Tuesday, so feel free to join on community space on Thursday.
Yeah, guys, please do. And if you can't make it for whatever reason, please give them a share and, help at least spread the word for others to be able to go. And let's keep spreading the word of TORUS and UNITY. And, good times are coming, folks. So just stay put, go touch grass when you need it. And, don't get lost in the sauce here in this super volatile space. So thank you all for being here. Have a wonderful day, and we'll catch you guys next week, or maybe see you on Thursday at the community space for the, with Martin and Kesh. See you, everyone.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.